It is time for another position focus video here today at CycloneFanatic.com. Austen Arnaud joins me. We're back on offense today, and we're breaking down the wide receivers. A very intriguing, I think when you break down Iowa State's roster, top to bottom, I think defensive back and I think wide receiver are the most intriguing positions to talk about leading up to the 2012 season. Let's start, well, Josh Lenz, I think, is the one real stable wide receiver. Yep. He's the guy who you know is going to be there, you know is going to make the play, regardless of the quarterback, especially Jared Barnett, I would say. Yep. Josh Lenz is going to be the guy who that offense goes through at wide receiver. Yep. We know what we're getting with him, so we want to keep these videos somewhat short, so let's kind of just move on. Keep the pride of Dubuque Hempstead out of it? Absolutely. So, Austin, I'm looking at like 15 guys, it seems like, at wide receiver who really we don't know that much about. Exactly. We'll start, I'm kind of tearing these guys off, okay? And Albert Gary, especially when Steele Jansen was playing quarterback, he's the newcomer of the year offensively in the Big 12 last year. Aaron Horn, I'm sorry. Yeah. And then you have Albert Gary, who was Jared Barnett's guy. Exactly. Barnett takes the helm last year, and and Gary's. We don't know what's going on with him legally though. So there's a little bit of that. That's another tier. I think you got Jarvis West kind of in a tier of his own because he's such a unique football player. Yep. Then you got the 3 redshirt freshmen and Jerome Tiller. JT. What's a guy to do when he's breaking down this wide receiver position, because we really don't know anything about hardly any of these guys. Right. You don't know, and you have zero idea until the first game. You're right. With camp and more of a build-up, spring ball was good for these guys. The more reps that these young guys can get, the better. Everyone is raving about these redshirt freshmen. Okay, come back to earth, people. It's not gonna be Todd Blythe. It's not going to be going out there and making huge plays. These guys are going to be playing within a system and trying to execute things with a young mentality. A guy that I really like and who I've always liked as a player is Jerome Tiller. He brings unbelievable athleticism to that position. I remember one of the first scrimmages of spring ball I went out to. They threw a fade ball to him on the side, backed up, and he caught it and he ran away from a couple DBs. And that's the speed and his jumping ability also factors in him be able to make great plays out there. Hopefully, as long as he can get reps. Athleticism, Tiller's right up there with all the other guys. You say? I would have to say that he is. I mean, and even more so. I know Josh Lenz is a 40-inch vertical leaper and a good player, but I'd say athletically, Jerome is comparable to all these guys at the spot. Let's talk about these 3 freshmen. Jaquarius Daniels, 6'3", 227. Quentin Bundridge, 6'2", 184. And Tad Ekby at 6 foot, 201. Of the 3, who would you say is most likely to come in and put up some big numbers for Iowa State, if any of those 3 are? I have to say Quentin Bundridge. Okay, that would be my answer too. Watching all 3 of those guys, I've had limited time to see Jaquarius Daniels because he was hurt in spring ball, and as a true freshman in camp, you really don't know what you're doing. You're just trying to be fundamentally sound and get reps, but out of all of them, ability-wise, I'd say Quentin is the most capable right now, just because I've seen him, make some plays that freshmen usually don't make. I remember last year in the summer during camp, he was going against, LJ and TB and one-on-ones and, making some notable plays against those guys. And that says a lot as a freshman to come in and trying to compete right away. And of the 3 redshirt freshmen, I'd say he's the most capable. JQ is another guy who was a big target. And Tad Ekby's a guy who, brings kind of your inside receiver, playmaking ability to the inside of the field. Just a little, you talked about Jaquarius Daniels' big body, 6'3", 227. Ernst Brunn, the tight end, 6'3", 240. Yeah. Not a whole lot of difference right there, so he's a big target for whoever's playing quarterback. Guy we haven't even mentioned yet is my boy, Jarvis West. Your boy. It's my guy. I mean, this guy, you saw it in the Pinstripe Bowl. You saw that kick return. That was that phantom hold over there at Yankee Stadium. But you saw, man, he is just... he was just inches away from a couple of those last year. I think he's due. I think he's due for his breakout season as an Iowa State Cyclone. He's definitely, the most electric player you have over there on out. You get him the ball, and you never know what's going to happen, and that could be good or bad. Yeah, he skeets around in 15-yard loss. It's like Techno Bowl type stuff. Exactly, and he can make guys miss and get through holes that most guys can't. So.
you love what he brings to the table. A guy that I'm anxious to see, and you've talked about, is Aaron Horn. He was a Big 12 newcomer on offense, had a great year, but like you said, it was kind of he was a roller coaster at times.
Yeah.
You didn't know what you're going to get from him.
Made some big plays.
Made some huge plays, but in the same sense had some big drops there too earlier on in the year. So you love that California connection between him and Steele. So.
He missed the spring.
Missed the spring, exactly.
Keep in mind, guys, he's a JUCO, and I know he had a good junior season for Iowa State. But it was Paul Rhodes even said it. He needed that spring.
Yep.
He really did. We talked so much about the quarterbacks and how Steele Jantz had a second go around and the game's going to slow down. Even at wide receiver, you need that spring. So it'll be interesting to see how that collarbone, I believe it was, with Aaron Horn heals up and how ready he's going to be. So, okay, Austin, we've got Josh Lenz and essentially a bunch of... We didn't mention Chris Young either. Got to get him into the conversation.
He's played before.
He has some experience. He's a pretty good down-the-field blocker, I know.
Yep.
Is the wide receiving core going to be better than what we've seen the first 3 years of the Paul Rhodes era? I say yes. I say this is finally the year. There's just too many talented guys for them all to... somebody's going to do something this year. I just had that feeling. What do you think?
I agree. You have numbers and you have depth in those numbers. Sometimes you can have numbers and have 15 wide receivers in the roster
who are all mediocre.
But I think there is, some of these guys are mediocre, but there are guys who are above the mold who are going to bring added depth and playmaking ability. That's what you need at wide receiver. You need guys that can stretch the field. I know it best from playing with guys who couldn't stretch the field. You have to have those big hitting plays at times in the game. And Coach Rhodes is a huge fan of those because he's a defensive guy. If you can throw a deep ball and score, that just changes the momentum of a game unbelievably.
Let me ask you this before we wrap this up. We talked a lot about Jarvis West.
Yep.
If you're a coordinator and you do some coaching, how would you use Jarvis West? Because he's so small.
Yeah.
What do you think they're going to do with him? Because he showed that playmaking ability. How are you going to take advantage of that?
I think, with Jarvis, he's got to be a guy that, first off, is going to play inside. Outside, in my opinion, defeats the purpose of him being outside unless you're going to stem him inside and have him go over the middle a little bit. But him being outside, he's not going to go up and compete for balls against guys that are 2 or 3 inches taller than him. But what you do with Jarvis, you put him in the slot, you motion him, you run some ball fakes with him as like a running back type of thing. And you saw that in the bowl game with Rutgers. He was trying to hit in between those tackles. But the more you can get Jarvis going side to side and stretching that defense out with that jet scheme and jet offense, you give Jarvis a couple carries straight across the quarterback like a Cowboy is what I call him, where he just catches it, you flip it to him in front of him and he just runs wide. The more you can get the defense going like that, and then attack them vertically with a guy like Quentin Bundridge or a guy like Josh Lenz or a guy like Albert Garrett, Aaron Horn over the middle, the better you're going to be. Because with the tempo of this offense and trying to get the defense going side to side is what you want, and then you got to attack them vertically. So, if Jarvis can get the ball in positions where he can be successful, I'm excited to see what he can do.
I'm excited to watch the wide receivers next year. I really am. It's held Iowa State back, I think, the last couple of years. And last year there were quarterback issues, but I think that this group
there still is this year quarterback issues.
Yeah, absolutely, and we'll hit the quarterbacks. That'll be our last position focus because everybody wants to talk quarterbacks. But I think this group's going to help out whoever that quarterback is this year. I'm confident in that, and I haven't been the last few years. Thanks for watching, everybody. It's been fun breaking down Iowa State's wide receivers. He's Austen Arnaud. I'm Chris Williams. We'll be back next week with another Position Focus here at CycloneFanatic.com.